Did your heart sink when you watched the surveillance tape?
Absolutely. It was unnerving that somebody could disappear in thin air.
You see her just walk into the darkness. She's never seen again.
I let out a huge scream and I began to cry. It was unimaginable.
It was overwhelming, definitely a life-changing matter.
It makes the hairs on your neck stand up.
We were already way behind the clock on this.
If we move fast enough, we may be able to actually save her.
Detectives brought tracking dogs.
They led us right to two muddy footprints. Someone was here waiting for the perfect moment to abduct her.
She definitely got in a vehicle. She was forcefully taken.
How hard was it to maintain any hope that she was still alive?
Very difficult. My heart sank. This individual.
He's a monster.
January 13th, 2022. It was just before dawn on a bitterly cold Thursday morning when the Northumberland County Sheriff's Office received an unusual call. A convenience store clerk was on the line, trying to get help with a terrifying situation. She explained that when she arrived for her morning shift, she found her friend's car idling out front. But 28-year-old Ariel Smith was nowhere in sight.
The morning store clerk reports to the store and notices Ariel's car there in the parking lot, running and unlocked. And that's about 4:30 in the morning.
What went through your mind?
This cannot be normal.
The clerk told dispatchers that although Ariel worked at the convenience store, there was no reason for her car to be there. Her shift had ended at 9 p.m. the night before. It had simply been sitting there for 6.5 hours?
Yes, sitting there unlocked. The store clerk stated that it didn't appear anything was rummaged through.
Were any of Ariel's personal belongings found inside the car?
Her ID, wallet with some credit cards, money.
Was there anything out of place, either near the car or inside the store?
Nothing. The store was closed as normal with the alarm set, lights off, the front door locked, secured.
Police raced to the scene. When they arrived, they were just as puzzled as the clerk was. In a small town, cases like this were almost unheard of. And to make matters worse, some of the investigators actually knew Ariel. What went through your mind when you heard that it was Ariel who was missing?
It was definitely strange. I've been knowing her since I was probably 12 or 13 years old, and I actually worked with Ariel's father for a short period of time. So it made me take things a little more personal. It was definitely a life-changing matter.
But despite those deep ties, investigators knew they had to keep their emotions in check. Their job was to focus on the evidence and to find out what happened to Ariel as quickly as possible. What were some of the first steps you took in investigating this case?
I had them show me the recording tape of the night before. We went to the video and just scrolled through from 9 o'clock, right before closing.
The tension in the room was thick as Detective Jones watched the surveillance footage. He sensed that at any second, he could see something terrible. Instead, he saw Ariel going through the steps of a normal closing, including walking outside and starting her car. Why do you think Ariel started her car that night before she went back into the store to close up?
It was a cold night. I do the same thing. We'll start our car at night if we're going somewhere, or early in the morning if it's cold outside.
But police really zeroed in on what happened next. A Honda Accord pulled up next to Ariel's car, and she walked towards it.
There was a gray four-door car that had pulled up. and she made her way to the passenger side of the second car. And it appeared she knew the person. She got in the car with them.
Detectives wondered if the car would suddenly take off with Ariel inside. But once again, what took place defied their expectations.
The car stays at the store probably 15, 20 minutes, and she gets out and goes back in the store.
And what did it look like as they parted ways?
She was happy, waved to him, and went along with her business. Nothing out of the ordinary, nothing suspicious.
Was it pretty obvious to you she was going through her normal nighttime routine?
Absolutely. Everything looked like what a night shift clerk would do at a convenience store to close up.
As Ariel went through those final steps with her car running out front, no other customers arrived.
She was inside the store for maybe 5, 10 minutes, and then you see her with a big bag of trash exit the store.
Was the gray car still there when she came out of the store?
She walked to the door to set the alarm and lock it. The gray car was leaving the parking lot and left and went down the highway.
Ariel walked along the front of the store as the gray car pulled off.
She goes towards the left side of the building where the dumpster is.
And then what happens?
The building has surveillance on every corner of the building except for where the dumpster is. As she's going toward the dumpster, she just goes out of sight of the last camera.
The investigators patiently waited to see her return from the side of the store.
You see her turn a corner and just walk into the darkness. She just disappears.
It was just like the movies.
Detectives kept watching the video, but it was like a still frame.
You just never see her come back. She's never seen again.
What was it like for you to see that portion of the footage?
Ominous. It makes the hairs on your neck stand up.
Did your heart sink when you simply watched her disappear on the surveillance tape?
Absolutely. It was a very unnerving feeling that somebody could just disappear in thin air.
Investigators watched Ariel's walk to the dumpster over and over, looking for a subtle clue they may have missed. But there was nothing. Where did the investigation go from there?
The first bit of the investigation was really comprised of boots on the ground police work and just see if we had anything.
In their hearts, police were confident that something disturbing had happened to Ariel after she walked into the darkness. But without any proof, they felt almost as lost.
This doesn't happen in our small town.
You traced her cell phone to see where it might have gone after she simply disappeared. What did you find out?
That the last ping on the phone was at the store. The phone is either off or the battery has died. Now we're becoming more suspicious.
Did you fear the worst at that point?
I started to, yes.
Something serious had taken place. I knew it wasn't good.
In fact, everyone on the case was certain they were now in a race against time, and Ariel Smith's life might hang in the balance. 28-year-old Ariel Smith had vanished just after closing time at the convenience store where she worked. When police shared the news with her sister Lydia, she was crushed.
I let out a huge scream and I began to cry. It was kind of like, I don't know, the unimaginable at that point.
The details about what police saw in the surveillance video troubled Lydia, but it was the way they had found Ariel's car that terrified her.
She always drove herself wherever she went. For the car to be left there, I knew something was wrong.
Lydia was worried, but she wasn't about to sit quietly and wait for help to arrive. What exactly did you do?
I instantly called Michael Parker, detective in Northumberland, and I wanted to know what I needed to do. He told us to, go to the sheriff's office and file a missing person report.
Lydia also mobilized those closest to Ariel, including her cousin, Adriel.
I didn't think anything bad happened until I tried to call her. When her phone was dead, then I just went numb. I know one thing about Ari, she never let her phone die.
For loved ones, it was impossible to imagine that someone as strong and independent as Ariel could be missing. What was she like?
She was charismatic, energetic, very sassy, full of life, lots of attitude. It was kind of her way or no way. She walked to the beat of her own drum.
She would keep me laughing, and she was very outgoing and outspoken.
Ariel's job at the convenience store was just a means to an end. She had plans for a future in nursing. Was she in a happy period of her life?
She was in a good space. She was in the process of transitioning into healthcare. She had interviewed to work at a nursing home. She had that job lined up for her. She was made for stuff like that. That's where her joy was.
Investigators knew that all of those dreams were now in jeopardy. Did Ariel have any enemies who you were aware of?
No, ma'am. None at all. It immediately just told me that we need to be on alert. We have someone that's taking advantage of women in our area. It's scary.
Law enforcement from around the state descended on the small town, bringing all of their resources with them.
Detectives wanted canine search done. So Virginia State Police and game wardens both brought tracking dogs.
The dogs tried to follow Ariel's last steps.
We were able to get a scent from an article that was left in her car.
That dog immediately went to the edge of the field just north of the store.
Investigators and the canines worked their way across the field and quickly made a critical discovery.
It led us right to two muddy footprints there.
Were there any signs of a struggle?
No signs of struggle, no signs of drag marks.
The shoe impressions were clearly fresh and had been left by someone traveling from the roadway behind the store on a direct path to the dumpster. You were convinced those were linked to the case?
Yes, ma'am. Seeing them was chilling because it let me know that someone was here waiting for her.
Those shoe impressions look like they would be the only ones police found in the otherwise hardened dirt. But the canine team continued to track Ariel's scent.
The dog took us to approximately 75 yards from those two footprints to another set of footprints on the edge of the ditch.
The ditch near the road was where the dogs lost track of Ariel's scent. Did that suggest to you that whoever abducted Ariel might have left a car there?
It did. We saw some tire tracks there.
When you stood in that area where you believe the abductor had parked his vehicle, could you see the store?
Yes, ma'am.
And how far away would you say that was?
Maybe 80 yards, so very much in view. It was obvious that someone was here waiting for the perfect moment to abduct her.
A disturbing picture was quickly coming into focus. What do you think happened when Ariel approached the dumpster?
He made his way from his vehicle to the dumpster and took her by force to his vehicle.
She definitely got in a vehicle. Very alarming.
The evidence left police convinced that Ariel Smith hadn't simply disappeared. She was abducted. And with each second that passed, her life was in greater danger.
We were already way behind the clock on this.
Did you acutely feel a race against time?
Very much so. It was overwhelming. I felt that weight on my shoulders. If we move fast enough, we may be able to actually save her.
More than 24 hours after 28-year-old Ariel Smith had vanished, the small town of Heathsville, Virginia, was still trapped under a cloud of terror. You lived in the community. How fearful was everyone?
There was a huge crowd of people reaching out to the sheriff's office, wanting to help in any way they can. People were creating search parties.
They wanted to know where she was. They wanted law enforcement out working. Stress level was going up.
Based on the evidence, investigators believed that Ariel's abductor was a local who knew she would be alone and vulnerable that night.
This was planned out. They knew what time closing was. They knew it was dark. They knew that she dumped the trash. Knew that there was no security cameras back there.
Would it have been pretty easy to hide behind the dumpster without anybody seeing you?
Yes, ma'am. Plenty of room to hide and not be seen.
But so far, identifying a potential suspect had been challenging. Where did the investigation go from there?
We spun tires for the first 24 hours. Just trying to run down whoever we could.
One of the people they had to find was obvious. Detectives desperately wanted to speak with the driver of the gray car caught on video in front of the convenience store. How important was the vehicle that she was last seen in to the investigation?
Very important. We wanted to know, first of all, who was driving the car. And when we caught up with this person, we wanted to know everything that they talked about. What did she say? We had a list of questions.
And identifying that driver wouldn't take very long. Detective Todd Jones suddenly realized he recognized the car.
We do live in a small rural area. We know 90% of the people that come and go. And there was a gentleman named Sean. I arrested him numerous times.
Detective Jones thought the timing of when the gray car was there was more than a coincidence. You see this man drive away. Did you suspect that he came back and possibly had abducted her out of view of the surveillance cameras?
I did, and that's why I immediately called him and had him come into the office for me to interview him.
Why did he say he visited Ariel that night?
He just told me they were friends and they hung out from time to time, and he just stopped by, got a beer, and was just hanging out in the car.
Where did he say he went after the gas station?
He went to visit a friend, and then he went home.
Detective Jones had interviewed Sean numerous times, and he had a good feel for when the young man was lying and when he was telling the truth. Did you believe him?
I did. He was genuine and came across in a truthful manner.
But on a case this important, investigators couldn't rely on just gut instincts. They executed a search warrant on Sean's phone, and his GPS data backed up his story.
Detective Smith checked his phone records and the towers they pinged off, everything checked out as far as his location of his cell phone.
It was clear that Sean and the gray car had nothing to do with Ariel's disappearance. But as one door closed, a new one opened. Lydia Smith contacted police with a tip about a man who her sister said had been harassing her at the store.
A couple of weeks prior, she had said that someone made her uncomfortable.
Ariel's friends added additional details. They said the customer had continued his unwanted behavior in the days leading up to her abduction.
He was bothering her. He was inappropriate. Had sort of been a little stalkerish at times.
Police were now eager to track the customer down. But all they had was the description of him that Ariel had given to her friends.
She described him as a smaller Hispanic male.
What did you do?
We found surveillance footage that showed us a video of them having an interaction at the register.
On the video footage, we saw him come in that evening and buy beer.
Police wondered if that same man had come back later that night, hid his car on the road behind the store, and waited for the right moment to strike. Now they hoped they could identify him and find him in time to save Ariel Smith. Investigators trying to find Ariel Smith had identified a potential suspect in her abduction. A man, she said, who had been stalking her at work. Police discovered surveillance video of him in the store, but they had no idea who he was.
So we released photographs of him and the vehicle he was driving on social media to try to get some input.
Several people recognized the man and gave detectives a variety of leads on where he might be. How did you track him down?
We received some tips, and we were able to figure out his name.
We immediately sent out detectives to try to gain information.
Investigators obtained the man's address and staked out his home, waiting for him to arrive.
Initially, I responded to his residence. He wasn't even on scene at all. Shortly after, he did appear.
The man seemed surprised to see the officers. Then investigators told him why they were there. How did he explain his repeated visits to the convenience store?
He said he didn't have any issues with her. She was someone he had conversation with, but at no point would he ever had any thoughts of hurting her.
Did he admit to having a romantic interest in her?
No.
Did he ever threaten her, to your knowledge?
No, ma'am.
In fact, the man denied ever saying anything inappropriate to Ariel. Investigators were skeptical, but the man was cooperative and maintained that he had nothing to hide.
He gave us permission to search the property, and we did not find Ariel.
The man also had a solid alibi for the night of Ariel's disappearance. Despite, not finding any evidence, did you still think there was a shot he could have been involved?
No, we were back to square one with no clue of where she went. We had nothing.
Still, the confusion made the next step in the investigation clear. Sheriff Beecham knew it was time to call in the FBI. And Special Agent Andrew Manson was the man he reached out to. How did the FBI first get involved in this case?
This is exactly how law enforcement in this country should work. When they need help, they reach out. He said, hey, we have a missing person. We think she was abducted. I got in the car, started driving down there, and on the way down there, I started talking to my bosses about the resources I need.
Within hours, a crack team of experts were in Heathsville and hard at work on the case.
At that point, we really started moving into overdrive. We had profilers from our behavioral analysis unit, cell phone folks, people that do videos, crisis management, SWAT people, evidence people, a U.S. attorney in case we needed to get a search warrant.
And their diligence paid off. The FBI immediately received data from Heathsville's lone cell phone tower through a process known as a tower dump. How does a tower dump work?
Every time a phone or any device hits a cellular tower, there's a record of it. And you'll know that a particular device hit a sector from this direction at this particular time.
The records allowed law enforcement to establish the location of every cell phone close to the convenience store during the window of time leading up to Ariel's abduction. What happened once the FBI performed a cell phone dump?
Through incredible police work, The special agent that ran the phone records was able to determine a single phone number that fit the fact pattern of the crime.
A single phone that was in the area before, during, and just after Ariel disappeared.
They found one cell phone number that came in the area of the store right before she closed and left within minutes after her leaving the camera view.
It would take time to trace the number to its owner, but experts already had the route the phone traveled, and a review of footage recorded along that path provided investigators with a critical new lead.
Reviewing the surveillance video, you see a vehicle, dark-colored SUV.
We could tell it was a blue SUV. The blue SUV was on Route 360 in front of the store and made a left, which would then drive by the store on the same side that the dumpster was on.
Prior to having that phone being isolated through this incredible technology, had anybody ever noticed that SUV before?
No.
Cell phone experts were able to provide officers with a map of where the driver went after he left the area.
We sent Detective Parker and an FBI special agent to go to where the phone stopped, and they found a dark-colored Dodge Durango parked in the driveway.
Staring out into the night, investigators believed they were sitting outside the home of Ariel's abductor. And they prepared for the dangerous task ahead of them, confronting a man who may be holding the young woman captive inside. A trail of incriminating cell phone data and surveillance clips had led police to the doorstep of the man they believed to be responsible for the abduction of Ariel Smith. Each piece of evidence had fallen into place, transforming a jumbled puzzle into a single, unmistakable image. Who did the cell phone evidence point to as a suspect?
Tyrone Samuel.
It was a name and rap sheet that Sheriff Beecham knew all too well. Why was he familiar to you?
I remember him being arrested multiple times. I remember his face clear as day.
Did your heart sink because you knew he was capable of violence?
Yes, but this was the biggest break we were going to have in this case. This was what we were waiting for.
The moment the search warrants on Samuel's home and vehicle were issued, law enforcement sprang into action.
We contacted the Virginia State Police and requested their tactical team. And we hit the house.
The team handcuffed their suspect and launched a desperate search for Ariel. Samuel was arrested, but Ariel wasn't there. Was there any evidence of a crime having been committed in the house?
Yes. One of the detectives on scene noticed a red-brown stain on a wall and a carpet. I was able to take a sample of that stain, submit a test, and found that it was human blood.
Ultimately, could you link that blood to Ariel?
Yes, ma'am. It was linked to Ariel Smith.
The blood evidence was a crushing blow for everyone on the case. What was discovered indicated she might already be dead.
We were all still holding out hope that we would find her in there. And then when you don't find her, your stomach kind of goes into your throat, and then when you see blood on the wall, it kind of drops out the bottom.
Were any of Ariel's personal belongings found in the home?
There was evidence we collected. We found a brassiere. There was a gold cross that looked like it had been on a necklace, but none that we were able to forensically trace back to her.
The search of Tyrone Samuel's truck told more of the grim story. What did you learn from processing his SUV?
The front passenger seat appeared to be cleaned with some sort of chemical, and a cadaver dog hit on the passenger seat. When you die, your body immediately starts to break down, and that's what the dogs pick up on.
This is our guy. Now we just got to make sure that we get all the evidence. He's going to be done.
Investigators were now convinced that Tyrone Samuel had taken Ariel's life. But getting a murder conviction would require more. Detective Michael Parker, Ariel's friend, hoped that he could get those details out of Samuel in the interrogation room. What was your strategy going into your interview with Tyrone?
This was such a big case. I was actually shocked that they asked me to conduct it. I was a little nervous. At the moment, I did not have a plan at all.
But as soon as he entered the room, Detective Parker began picking up clues to use against Samuel. What was the first thing you noticed when he sat down for the interview?
Just right off the jump, he had severe scratches. Asked him, did he have any more injuries?
Police instructed the prime suspect to remove the blanket he was wrapped in and saw unmistakable bite marks all over his body. Did they look like defensive wounds to you?
They looked like wounds from somebody that was fighting for their life.
How did he explain those away?
His story was he was riding a go-kart and he had a minor accident where he ran into a tree. I told him, there's no way that those kind of injuries can come from a go-kart. Find another story to give us, because that's not gonna work for us at all.
But the hardened criminal stuck to his story.
Does that look like a bite mark? Yeah,
That's no bite mark.
it is a bite mark. She was fighting. Was she fighting for her life? Did she lose her
I tell
life?
you, nothing happened.
Samuel did admit he knew Ariel and had talked with her at a party just a few weeks before she was abducted. But I'd like to sit across from him knowing that he was the one responsible for Ariel's death.
Tough. But again, I had made a promise to the community and the family as well to finish the job.
And Detective Parker wasn't alone. Every member of the team was just as determined to bring Ariel home.
Based on the phone records, I pulled up a mapping system and created 6 areas that we suspected she might be. I called every local law enforcement agency and said, if you have people available, we need them. We need boots on the ground.
And on January 18th, 2022, 10 days after Ariel's disappearance, their massive effort paid off in the worst way possible.
There was an abandoned shallow well on the property that appeared it had been used for household garbage for years. So we're talking about a depth of about 8 feet.
It was there, amidst the debris, that Ariel's lifeless body was discovered.
She was found nude, head down, and then covered up with leaves and sticks and anything that he could find to disguise her being there.
It was sickening to see someone's body upside down in a well with objects thrown on top of her, like she was trash.
Investigators carefully removed Ariel from the well and transported her body to the medical examiner's office. What was determined at autopsy to be the cause of her death?
Ultimately, the cause of death was determined to be strangulation.
And the report revealed additional evidence that sealed Samuel's fate.
What we found was his DNA, evidence that she had been sexually assaulted by Tyrone Samuel.
In all your years of law enforcement, had you ever encountered this kind of depravity and callous disregard for life?
This would have to be the worst in my career. This was very brutal. I think that's why it took me a while to figure out what to say to the family.
Lydia Smith can still remember the incredible swing of emotion she felt when she was called to the sheriff's office.
They walked us into a room, and I don't know if it's optimism or delusion, but at that moment, I thought I was walking down that hallway and my sister was gonna be in there. And once we got in, it was shattering.
Lydia just made this awful scream. But just to hear the pain in her voice was devastating, and I still hear it every day. It was very tough to know what this animal did to her sister.
In November of 2023, Tyrone Samuel pled guilty to abduction by force and first-degree murder. Ariel's loved ones were on board with the plea deal. Although the 52-year-old Samuel will only serve 27 years, he gave up the ability to appeal or challenge his conviction in any way. Was there any evidence that he targeted Ariel, or was this a crime of opportunity?
Seeing the surveillance video of him, we know that he left his house, drove by the gas station where he lay in wait. That's premeditated. He had a plan.
Some believe the short meeting Ariel had had with Samuel at that New Year's Eve party triggered the attack.
A lot of those guys, they have an issue with power. Knowing her, I'm pretty sure turned him down, put him in his place, and he didn't like that.
Do you believe an obsession grew out of that one encounter?
Yes, ma'am.
A deadly obsession that ultimately scarred a tight-knit community. What kind of toll did this case take on you?
I shed a lot of tears. There was a lot of nights waking up out of my sleep from seeing her body being pulled out of that well. It changed my life dramatically.
Still, the details of Ariel's death are not the ones her family dwells on. They have chosen to put the horror behind them and focus on how she lived. It's a beautiful picture of her on your shirt.
Thank you.
When you look at that picture, do you think of happier times?
I have my moments. Sometimes I can look at it and smile, and sometimes I get sad. She was more than a cousin. She was my sister. She was my friend. Really took a lot out of me, out of all of us.
What do you hope Ariel's legacy will be?
The good memories always outweigh the bad ones. She was a breath of fresh air, a ray of sunshine. She would remind me to show and spread as much love as you can when you can. Live each moment like it's your last one. And most of all, make sure you tell your family and your friends that you love them.
Just how violent was her death?
She had been severely beaten. She had been raped. It's still one of the most violent attacks that I've seen.
She was struck over and over and over. And then he watched her in a fetal position and smoked a cigarette with no remorse.
This was a monster of a person.
My phone rang and my mother said, "Terry's gone." My niece just buckled.
She was getting prepared for Valentine's Day, trying to have a moment with her fiance, and that was ripped apart.
I never did celebrate Valentine's Day ever again. There were a lot of young women at that time being murdered.
A task force was created to try to find out who's committing this string of killings.
Our darkest fear was that her killer was someone who she trusted.
I believe any case can be solved. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Do you think Terry had been targeted?
Yes, I believe that he watched Terry and he waited to kill her.
February 14th, 1985. It was just before 3 p.m. on Valentine's Day when the Arlington Police Department got a call that made it clear that none of their detectives would be celebrating that night.
A maintenance man who was going to be doing some pest control work attempted to enter an apartment, used his key to get in. He walks in and in a bedroom finds a horrific scene.
Pushed the door open and seen a woman laying there beaten to death.
He immediately calls 911.
When officers arrived, the building's management had identified the badly beaten young woman as Terry McAdams. Although the 22-year-old was a resident of the complex, she didn't live in the apartment where she was found.
Detectives learned that Terry did have her own apartment, but she was at her fiance's apartment in that same apartment complex.
Officers wanted to speak with Terry's fiancé, but none of the workers knew where he was. And that became more troubling as investigators began studying the crime scene. Everything they saw in the kitchen suggested that Terry had been preparing a romantic Valentine's Day celebration. There were candles on the table and a homemade heart-shaped cake on the kitchen counter. Those clues stood in stark contrast to the ones found in the blood-stained bedroom just a few steps away. Just how violent was her death?
It's still one of the most violent attacks that I've seen. This was a monster of a person that committed this offense.
What did the blood evidence tell you about how the attack had unfolded?
With the way the blood splatter was on the door and the walls, the belief was that she had been struck with a heavy, blunt object.
Experts believed that the blood patterns they saw on the wall were created by cast-off from the murder weapon.
Being hit multiple times as you go back up and then go back down, that blood's going to be everywhere.
Was it clear at the scene what she had been killed with?
No, we felt like it was possibly a hammer. Unfortunately, it was not found.
Analysis of the blood evidence told police that the attack had taken place between 12 and 15 hours before her body was discovered. Investigators studied the scene for clues that might explain more about the savage late-night attack. Did it appear as though the apartment had been ransacked?
Not that we could tell. For the most part, the apartment was in good shape.
Could it have been a robbery gone wrong?
Don't think so, just because he had numerous things to steal in that apartment. This was a person who wanted to kill her.
The strewn clothing on the floor and a large bloodstain on the mattress told more of the story. What did investigators theorize was the motive for the attack?
She was almost completely naked, so we believed pretty early on that it was going to be sexual in nature.
All of the chaos was concentrated within a few steps of the bed, leading investigators to believe that Terry had been ambushed.
She was getting this cake prepared and trying to get this romantic evening ready to go, and I think she was taken by surprise.
Did investigators think the crime was personal?
That's immediately what we go towards.
Scenes like hers, where if somebody had been bludgeoned, they're very angry, very violent attacks. Usually you have a connection with that individual.
And there were additional clues that added weight to that idea. Police saw evidence that the killer had been comfortable in the apartment even after the attack was over.
One thing that stood out the most was a cigarette butt next to Terry's body.
Ashes mixed with blood left no doubt that their suspect had smoked the cigarette after Terry was dead. The butt was collected, along with anything else the killer may have touched. What evidence did investigators recover?
Investigators did thorough work. The blood, of course, clothes, hairs.
No fingerprints were found, but CSI located a telling clue when they pulled back the drapes and examined the bedroom's sliding glass door. Were there any signs of forced entry?
Yes. It appeared that the back latch was broken.
It doesn't take much force to pry a door like that.
Just outside the doorway, police found a footprint in the soft dirt. How clear was that footprint?
It was very clear, very fresh. No doubt that it had to be the perpetrator.
Did they believe that footprint was made when the killer came into the apartment or when he left?
The footprint was pointing towards the door, so it would have been when the killer was coming in. We know that he entered the apartment through that sliding glass door.
Investigators hope the evidence might help them identify the killer. Meanwhile, officers went door to door looking for a witness who may have seen a man lurking on the patio or racing from the apartment. Was that back sliding glass door visible to anyone in the apartment complex?
Yeah, it was visible to several people, but nobody heard anything.
This was an absolutely brutal attack. Were you surprised that investigators couldn't find any witnesses that heard anything suspicious that night?
No. At night, a lot of people probably sleep, and because the way Terry was hit, she had to be knocked unconscious immediately.
Everything police had discovered had them convinced the crime was a personal and rage-fueled attack.
Who would rip her clothes off, continue to beat her, smoke a cigarette, not have any remorse, and leave? That's just a complete monster.
As investigators continued to process the grisly crime scene left in the wake of Terry McAdams' murder, they steeled themselves for the grim task of breaking the news to her loved ones. It was a life-shattering moment for her sister, Karen. Take me back to when you were notified Terry had been brutally murdered.
My phone rang and my mother was just beside herself. I can still remember the panic and the pain in her voice. And she just said, "Terry's gone. Terry's gone." My knees just buckled. The grief is so powerful. I never did celebrate Valentine's Day ever again. Never.
The sense of loss Karen felt was only deepened knowing the changes her sister had made in her life after arriving in Texas for college. Did Terry have any safety concerns when she moved to Arlington?
Yes. There were a lot of young women at that time who were being murdered. She called my mother a lot to talk about her concerns.
The rash of violent attacks had been targeting young co-eds like Terry.
There were articles coming out in the paper. She was frightened. She was taking measures to try to protect herself.
Steps that included quitting a second job she had working nights and making sure that if she was alone, she was home before dark. Those precautions made it difficult for her family to understand how Terry had been targeted. Could you think of anyone who could have been responsible?
Terry was just so incredibly kind. She just radiated light, and we worried that she knew her killer.
Karen told investigators that the last time she had spoken with her sister was around 10 o'clock on the night before her body was found. Terry could hardly wait to see her fiancé and surprise him in his apartment with a romantic Valentine's celebration. Their final words to each other remain poignant.
I remember that the last thing that we said to each other is, "I love you." We never hung up the phone without saying, "I love you."
Based on the evidence investigators were assembling, it seemed likely that shortly after that phone call, the attack began. Police dissected every movement she made in the hours leading up to that fateful moment. What kind of a timeline could they construct?
They constructed a timeline looking at receipts. She was at a local grocery store.
The items Terry bought around 4:30 that evening were ingredients for the Valentine's cake she had baked. The receipts show that after leaving the grocery store, Terry had run one final errand.
She went to the dry cleaners.
Terry had picked up a dress that police found hanging in her closet. And what time do investigators think she got to her fiancé's apartment?
I want to say 5 or 6.
Would anybody have known she was in her fiancé's apartment that night?
Her sister, but otherwise, I would say no.
The evidence indicated that Terry spent much of the next few hours getting ready for a Valentine's celebration, and that she was still alone in the apartment when her sister called at 10 p.m. What was the initial theory of how the crime unfolded?
I believe after that phone call, the perpetrator forced entry. And when he pried the door open, she heard something to go to the bedroom, and that's when she got hit.
Terry's autopsy left little doubt what happened after the attack began.
A sexual assault kit was completed. We knew that she had been sexually assaulted, but we're pretty antiquated back in 1985. So the most that we could hope for was a blood type.
But the report contained other clues that might help identify her killer using old-fashioned police work. It noted that all of Terry's injuries had been caused by a hammer striking her in the right side of her head. What did the location of Terry's injuries tell investigators about her attacker?
With blows to the right side of her head, they believed that he had the hammer in his left hand.
The fact that their suspect was left-handed was just one of the leads investigators kept to themselves. And Terry's family provided another important detail. Her diamond engagement ring was missing. They said she never went anywhere without it. What did that suggest to you?
Is it a lover that she may have had that nobody knew about that was jealous of the fact that she was engaged? Is it the fiance? This was such a personal attack.
And that put finding Terry's fiance, Jeff, front and center on investigators' checklist. The investigation into Terry McAdams' murder was starting with a very narrow focus. And that spotlight was shining on her fiancé, Jeff, who detectives had been unable to locate 24 hours after the crime. Did they have concerns about her fiancé?
No doubt about it. It was his apartment.
We really wanted to make sure that we were able to find this individual as fast as possible.
But investigators also wanted to be ready, and their conversations with the couple's inner circle raised the stakes. What did those closest to Terry have to say about her fiancé and their relationship?
They mentioned that he was a little possessive and jealous. It seemed to be at times a tumultuous relationship.
There was arguments. There was heated moments.
Was there ever any indication that Terry might have wanted to have broken off the engagement?
There was some speculation that at some point that thought did cross her mind.
Could an end to her engagement have been the catalyst for the savage attack? All of the evidence police had seemed to support that theory. And more red flags were raised when detectives learned that Jeff was left-handed.
Left-handed people account for a very small percentage of the population in the world, so that makes you want to take a look at him.
Did police consider the possibility that the crime scene was staged by Jeff to look like a break-in?
Yes, it was a possibility. We wanted to get him interviewed, and we wanted to see if we could either prove or disprove if he was responsible for Terry's murder.
When Terry's fiancé finally surfaced the next morning, detectives were ready to confront him with their evidence.
He was immediately brought in for questioning. We wanted to get a timeline on where he was, where he's been, who he's been talking to.
Jeff seemed overwhelmed by the detectives' questions and devastated by his loss. He said that although he and Terry had disagreements like any couple, they were very much in love and were planning their wedding.
He was cooperative. I know they specifically asked, is there anybody that has a grudge with him? Any issues with anyone that may have been going to the apartment to look for him and found her instead? He was distraught about it. He had a normal reaction for somebody that just found out that their loved one has been killed.
But investigators probed deeper, sensing that those emotions also could have come from someplace darker. Guilt. Where did he say he had been the night Terry had been murdered?
He told us he had been out of town in Kansas City for work.
Jeff seemed puzzled by investigators' repeated questions about what brand of cigarette he smoked.
The fiancé said neither of them smoked.
Detectives were skeptical, but they slowly began to realize everything Jeff had told them was true after a check of his itinerary clearly placed him out of the state during the window of the attack.
Eventually, we were able to get that corroborated with an airline ticket, as well as members of the company that he worked for that did verify he was in Kansas City at that time.
With her fiancé eliminated, police focused their attention on the symbol of Terry's dream for a life with Jeff, her engagement ring. How did investigators view that missing ring?
This ring is missing. Who possibly has it?
Law enforcement fanned out across Arlington during a massive search for the stolen ring.
They put up flyers, they put up posters. They really went above and beyond to try to find who would have had that ring in their possession.
Detectives reached out to over 250 pawn shops.
Even if it was sold, we would at least have a description of the person that sold it.
Was the ring ever found?
It was not.
Police also had experts examine every item collected from the crime scene. And with Jeff cleared, one piece of evidence loomed large: the cigarette butt found near Terry's body. What did the initial testing of the cigarette butt reveal?
It revealed this person was blood type B.
Type B blood isn't that uncommon. 1 in 11 people share the trait.
That's a needle in a haystack.
Detectives hope for more luck with the shoe impression found outside the sliding glass door. Once forensic experts had the opportunity to study the shoe print, what did they find out?
They found out that this shoe originated from a blue Commander. They stopped producing it that year.
It was a very unique style of shoe.
They immediately started asking witnesses and friends, have you ever seen this shoe?
And police spent countless hours at stores trying to connect someone who bought that shoe to Terry.
They also sent the shoe print out to the FBI to see could they do anything else that we were possibly missing.
The painstaking effort revealed nothing more than a shoe size. How frustrating was it that, in spite of all their hard work on the shoe prints, that it didn't really lead them anywhere?
It wasn't for nothing. All that groundwork only helped me. He wore a size 10 or 11. I want to know who he is. It's something that I can use, knowing his shoe, knowing that he smoked. Why the hammer? Why the ring? It's something that you keep in your arsenal. It painted the picture even more.
But would the details in that portrait of a killer lead police to the man who viciously ended Terry's life? The Arlington Police Department remained convinced that the murder of Terry McAdams was a very personal crime. But after eliminating all the men in her inner circle, they began to explore a new direction. Could Terry have been the victim of a deadly stalker whose relationship with her existed only in his own twisted mind?
There was a lot of different theories, but I believe that he watched Terry for a very extensive period of time. I think he was studying, and he waited to make his move.
Pursuing that theory meant taking a hard look at other sexually motivated crimes in the area. Did they think Terry's murder was connected to any of those other crimes?
It was a possibility. Fort Worth had been working several similar offenses with the same type of MO. Young women, college age, were being brutally attacked and sexually assaulted.
Some were beaten in their residence.
In fact, the wave of violence that had terrified Terry in the days leading up to her murder had continued for several years. The unsolved attacks led multiple law enforcement agencies to join together.
A task force was created between about 30 to 35 detectives to try to find out which of these offenses are related and who's committing them.
Arlington detectives on the task force noted one vicious attack that seemed eerily similar to Terry's.
There was a murder where an individual had broken into an apartment, had stolen some jewelry from a female victim, sexually assaulted her, and then ultimately killed her. We started looking into that.
And their deep dive into the case file revealed more chilling connections between the two homicides.
He had forced entry through the back sliding glass door. And it was a left-handed individual who bludgeoned her with a blunt object.
But the Fort Worth murder also had one critical difference. The suspect had been caught fleeing the scene carrying his victim's blood-stained purse. Who was the assailant?
Curtis Brown.
Did Curtis Brown live near Terry?
Yes, he could have seen her. They could have ran into each other. You just never know.
Investigators believe they were on the right track as they studied Brown's long rap sheet.
They believed that he was responsible for over 18 crimes, but they were only able to prove 3.
Those details made Brown a prime suspect in the Terry McAdams case.
We wanted to prove he was responsible for Terry's murder.
Detectives were confident that there was one piece of physical evidence that would place Brown inside the crime scene: the cigarette butt.
Ultimately, we were able to obtain a blood sample for him and compared that to that cigarette butt.
What happened when Brown's blood was compared to the evidence that came off of the cigarette butt?
He was exonerated.
Unfortunately, we had to rule Curtis Brown out due to the blood being a different type.
How crushing of a blow was that for investigators?
Pretty crushing. You have somebody with the same style of offense being committed just miles down the road. You think you have it, and then we're back to square one.
Sadly, that type of disappointment became a recurring theme detectives had to face for a long time. What other suspects did they look at in the decades that followed?
There were some other serial type killers. If you committed an offense that was remotely close to what we had, it was somebody that our detectives wanted to talk to.
Ultimately, each of those investigations led to the same conclusion. None of the suspects could be linked to the crime scene evidence. Still, detectives refused to give up on Terry and her loved ones.
I believe they felt what I felt. Terry, her friends, her family, her sister, I love them like they're my own.
I can hear the heartbreak in your voice when you talk about Terry. I'm wondering if that further motivated the detectives on the case.
They continue to put hope into everybody. It gives you that fight to want to keep going. Everyone who touched this case over the last 40 years, they kept trying. I knew something was going to come out of it.
And all those years of tireless work were about to pay off in a way no one could have expected. Decades after Terry McAdams' murder, the case remained unsolved. The lack of answers haunted investigators and her family. I can only imagine the levels of grief that you all experienced. But on top of that, you had to deal with year after year going by with none of the answers your family deserved.
I'm a very hopeful person. I'm a very positive person, so I never wanted to lose hope. But so many years had passed, I just thought, we're just gonna live the rest of our lives not knowing. I watched my mom get her hopes up, only to be disappointed. It was so hard for her.
But Karen's optimism slowly returned as she read about dozens of cases like her sister's being solved with advances in DNA technology.
That was when my hope was truly reignited, because I thought, well, gosh, if they can solve these, then they surely can do something with ours.
And investigators like Blake Ritchie and Detective Devin Coffer refused to give up.
Cases do go cold, unfortunately, but our detectives never stopped revisiting it to make sure that there was nothing that we could do to push forward.
And one piece of evidence detectives noticed during a review in 2023 reignited the case.
I knew that If there was a chance that we were going to solve it, that cigarette butt was going to be our key.
That cigarette butt left at the crime scene after the murder gave technicians a final chance to obtain the specialized type of profile required for the FBI's new Investigative Genetic Genealogy Unit.
We wanted to pitch this case to them for this new technology.
When Special Agent Seth Webb saw the test results, he believed the IGG unit could help.
What made you think you might be able to solve it?
Well, I would call it blissful ignorance. I was newly trained on IGG. I believe any case can be solved if there's DNA remaining. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Special Agent Webb immediately put the FBI's unmatched resources to work.
When we start an IGG case, the process begins with the unknown suspect DNA, and then a lab giving us a list of relatives that have opted into law enforcement, seeing their DNA comparison. Then we build their family lineage into a tree.
But in this case, there were a series of unusual gaps in the tree branches.
When I got the results, it kind of took the wind out of my sails. Our matches were, to put it nicely, awful. There was no one closely related, but we knew we had a lot more work to do.
Face-to-face interviews done by his fellow FBI agents across the country ultimately allowed Agent Webb to identify an unmarried couple who was genetically linked to the suspect.
We had one match representing the maternal side and the other match representing the paternal side.
A deeper dive into the couple convinced him he was on the right track.
What did you find out?
They were from Arlington, Texas. And up until this point in our family tree, we had seen no connection to the Arlington area whatsoever. We started looking into them. Our suspect had to be from these two individuals.
Additional research revealed that the couple had 3 male children. Special Agent Webb believed it was now time to contact Detective Coffer.
The first thing I want to do is call him and say, hey, I have a list of 3 suspects that have to be your suspect.
As an investigator, my job is to dissect that list.
A detailed background check on the 3 men narrowed the focus to a single prime suspect. His name was Bernard Sharp.
Seeing his criminal history of sex assault, he stood out to me from that list. He immediately someone that I wanted to pursue.
At the time of the murder, Bernard Sharp lived and worked less than 3 miles from Terry's apartment. And there was more.
He was involved in janitorial work and maintenance work, and it was not uncommon for him to have tools with him.
Tools like the screwdriver that pried open the apartment's sliding glass door and the hammer used to murder Terry.
You start getting excited that maybe we're getting close.
Step by step, Sharp's case file tied him to everything found at the crime scene.
Did he happen to be left-handed?
He did.
What was your reaction to finding that out?
It definitely started putting the pieces together.
But just when police had enough probable cause to arrest Sharp, it would now be impossible. Their suspect had taken his own life following a brutal double homicide months after Terry's murder. In that senseless attack, he had murdered his wife and another innocent bystander.
Was there a part of you that was outraged that he had killed himself before you could get the answers you needed?
Yes, there was a part of me that was upset that if this is our guy, he's never going to face justice for killing Terry. There's also sadness that he killed 2 additional people before he killed himself.
The police reports detailing the double homicide were heartbreaking. All of it was witnessed by Sharp's 13-year-old stepdaughter.
We interviewed the stepdaughter about what happened between our perpetrator and their mother.
Sharp broke in through the back door before killing his 2 victims. And his final act contained a chilling similarity to Terry's murder.
He lit a cigarette and killed himself after his cigarette was done. The cigarette was laying next to him, just like Terry's case.
Sharp's loved ones believe that he had killed his wife to silence her.
Do you believe she was aware that he had murdered Terry?
I think that she knew some dark secrets about him that no one knew. It was all about to come out, and that's when he did what he did.
A reverse paternity test on Sharp's daughter told police what they already knew.
What did that test reveal?
That Bernard Sharp was our killer. Absolute confirmation. Bernard Sharp was our guy.
Detectives believe Sharp targeted Terry McAdams while she was running errands and followed her back home.
I believe he watched her going inside her boyfriend's apartment.
Sharp then waited until the young woman was getting ready for bed before he pried open the door and attacked her. One of Arlington's oldest mysteries had its conclusion.
How satisfying was it for you to bring this case to a close after so many decades?
I was elated, and then ultimately meeting Terry McAdams' family when we got to break the news to them, that was special.
It was a bittersweet meeting for Karen Hopper. Both of her parents died without answers.
As you can imagine, I would have given anything to have had my parents here for this. But I know that they're with her, so I know that they know.
Now Karen had that answer as well.
How much gratitude do you have that after all these years, they were not only able to solve the case, but prove their case?
I still can't believe that they did it. It's a miracle. It really is.
And none of the details police shared about Bernard Sharp lessened that feeling.
How did they break the news to you that Sharp had killed himself?
I had hoped all of these years that he would be alive because I thought that that's what justice would look like, but I am at peace that he has been gone for all of these years. I'm at peace not having to go through a really long and difficult trial. I'm at peace knowing that he and my sister are in 2 different places. He is not where she is. So I'm okay. I'm okay with this ending. I really am okay with it.
Karen and her family can now put the worst behind them and move forward.
There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about her. She lives on in the very best parts of me. She taught me so much about just being a good person. She definitely gave me the gift of just being grateful for every day. There's not a moment that I don't thank God for my life.
Careful 911, where's your emergency?
My fiance is missing.
Me and John are making a video.
I'm really freaking out.
What happened when investigators arrived at her home?
There's nothing missing besides Caitlin. You had that gut feeling, something's wrong here.
Her wallet and her car keys were laying on her bed. Things weren't adding up.
It's like she's there 1 minute, gone the next.
Each day that went by, I knew this was not going to be a good outcome.
It was an extensive search. A girl disappearing for no reason, that doesn't happen in Fairfield. They wanted answers.
I called the investigations supervisor and I said, I honestly don't believe this girl's coming home alive.
A gentleman searching a creek line comes across a bag. He opens the bag and there's a skull in it.
It was Caitlin Markham. It was heartbreaking. It really was.
There were 2 police officers and a pastor who told me. I just broke down.
What did you realistically think were the chances of solving this case?
I knew we'd find something. That's what my job is to keep digging. You need to understand something. I don't miss. But if it is you, I'm coming.
August 14th, 2011. It was just after 8 on a warm Sunday night when Fairfield police got an unusual 911 call.
Fairfield 911, where's your emergency?
Hi, my name is John Carter. My fiance is missing. I can't find her anywhere.
What's her name?
Caitlin Helene Markham.
The dispatcher tried to determine just how serious the situation actually was.
Where did you see her last?
I saw her at like 12 o'clock last night. She was at her house. She was going to bed. I'm really nervous.
Then John explained that none of the couple's friends nor family had heard from Caitlin all day. But it was what he saw when he checked her townhouse that triggered his call to police.
And I decided to go by her house. Her car is still there. Her purse is still there. The only thing that's not there is her cell phone, but she's not answering it, which is why I'm like really freaking out.
We'll have somebody come out and speak with you, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Senior Officer Sandy Sears responded to the address John had provided.
Take me back to the first call you took about this case. What happened?
The dispatcher was very concerned that there were some red flags. I told her that I would take the call myself.
What happened when you got to her townhouse?
I was met by John Carter and Caitlin Markham's father, David. I asked them to take me inside and walk me through.
Officer Sears carefully surveyed the scene.
Nothing's missing, nothing's been stolen, there was no forced entry.
Still, Officer Sears did observe a few things that seemed odd.
There was a coffee table pushed up against the couch in the living room. And in her bedroom, there was some supplies knocked over on her desk. That gave me a little bit of concern.
Was there enough out of place that you thought a struggle might have taken place there?
Not at that point, but her wallet and her car keys were laying on her bed. And I went through the wallet. She had $300 in cash. She had her debit credit card in there and her driver's license. And her shoes were there. I became very suspicious. Things weren't adding up for me.
Although there was no obvious sign of foul play, DA investigator Paul Newton believed that Officer Sears was reading the scene correctly.
Is it possible that she had just wanted to disappear for a while?
Her car's there, no purse, no wallet, no money. She's not going far. And none of her friends know where she's at. And I know this officer. Went to the police academy with her. She's very experienced. She doesn't get shook real easy. You had that gut feeling, something's wrong here.
And following that gut feeling led Officer Sears to take additional precautions.
At this point, I'm calling the dispatcher and I'm asking her to have Caitlin's cell phone pinged.
While she waited for those results, Officer Sears asked Dave Markham what he knew about his daughter's disappearance.
How did you find out something was wrong?
I got a phone call from John. He was at the townhouse. He said that Caitlin's missing. She's gone. I can't find her anywhere.
When was the last time you had spoken with her?
That was just a few days before, by a text, she had said that there was a UPS package for me, and that was it. I still have that text message.
Officer Sears then spoke with Caitlin's fiancé to get more information about the last time he had seen her. What was known about her timeline that night?
She's home that evening, and she's hanging out with John Carter, her fiancé.
Now it's recording.
Around 9:30 that night, a friend of Caitlin's, a Brad Von Bargen, shows up. They watched some TV show. Brad leaves around 10:45, and John leaves shortly after Brad does.
Did he speak with her again later that night?
John said that he received some text messages shortly after 11, ending around 11:36 p.m., but he did not talk to Caitlin no more that night.
And the evidence pointing to a problem continued to mount with a call to Caitlin's work.
I spoke to the manager of the bridal shop, and she told me that Caitlin had never no called, no showed, ever. And today, she did no call, no show. They were very worried about her.
Was she someone who was disciplined and dedicated to her job?
Yes, always punctual, never missed a shift.
Officer Sears was still trying to piece together the puzzling clues when a call from her dispatcher suddenly forced her to view all the evidence through a new lens.
The ping on the cell phone showed that shortly after midnight, the cell phone was turned off, the battery removed, and the SIM card removed.
They can actually tell that through their analysis?
Yes, ma'am. And that is one of the first times that I've had them say that in my career.
What point did Caitlin's phone go dark?
At 12:06 a.m., August the 14th.
The timing was troubling. Caitlin's phone had been disabled just a half hour after her last text to John. What did you make of that?
Just with the totality of the circumstances, honestly, I felt like there was some foul play here.
Officer Sears was instructed to bring anyone who might have information about Caitlin to the police station.
I separated everybody into different rooms and waited for the detectives. I had Dave Markham out in a community area, and he looked up at me and he said, "Is this all really necessary?" I said, "Yes, it is, sir." And he just broke down and started crying.
And Officer Sears feared there was more heartbreak ahead.
I called the investigation supervisor and I said, "Look, sir, I honestly don't believe this girl's coming home alive."
As police investigating the disappearance of Caitlin Markham contemplated the evidence, the only thing that seemed clear was the window of time when the mystery began. How small of a time window are we talking about?
We're talking about a very short period of time, 30 minutes. And her friends are saying she's not going to open the door for just anybody, especially at that time of night. No forced entry, phone's gone. There was something going on that night. Something they didn't know.
Police believed the first step was to find out more about Caitlin's lifestyle.
Hi, this is Caitlin Markham. This is my very professional webpage. I hope you enjoy it because I enjoyed making it and I love you.
Her father, Dave, filled in a lot of details. What was she like?
Caitlin was very bubbly, outgoing her entire life, made friends wherever we went. She never wanted to see anybody upset or hurt. She always wanted somebody to leave her presence happy.
That kind-hearted spirit radiated through everything Caitlin did, especially in the main focus of her life, her artwork.
Could you tell that she had artistic talent at an early age?
A very early age, yeah. She always had crayons or pencils or markers and sketchbooks. That was the passion of hers. She wanted to go to a trade school, some kind of commercial arts. She enrolled and was accepted. That's when it just took off. The sky was the limit.
This is a video of me and John. Me and John are making a video.
Caitlin also seemed settled in her personal life. She and her fiancé, John Carter, had been together for 6 years. Friends painted a vivid portrait for investigators.
How did her friends characterize her relationship with her fiancé, John Carter?
In the eyes of everybody, they were the perfect couple. Very happy couple.
Despite all the glowing stories about the newly engaged couple, police were still focused on the fact that John was the last person to see Caitlin. They needed to know every detail of their final evening together.
Did you think anything was wrong Saturday night?
I remember her sitting there working on her final while Brad was there. She wasn't very talkative or anything, but that wasn't out of the ordinary. Whenever she had a big project, I knew to just stay out of her way. Just let her do her homework, let her get all of her stuff done, and when it's over, she'll be happy.
John said when he left Caitlin, she was getting ready for bed.
When you left Caitlin's house on Saturday, do you remember seeing where her car was?
It was parked where it's usually parked, right across from her doorway.
John then went to meet up with some friends.
Was anybody able to verify he actually went to his friend's house after he left Caitlin's that night?
Absolutely. 5 people there. And he's there approximately until 1:15 to 1:20 in the morning, and then he goes home.
John said it was still several hours before he called it a night.
He watches 3 episodes of the show White Collar, and he says he goes to bed shortly after 4 o'clock in the morning.
Before closing his eyes, John completed a nightly ritual.
John says he sent Caitlin a text message at 4 o'clock in the morning. It was good morning, love you.
John expected to see Caitlin's response when he woke up 12 hours later.
He didn't get up till 4:30 that day to go to work. When he sees that Caitlin has not contacted him, he's getting concerned.
John tried calling Caitlin several times and texted her, and when she didn't respond, he decided to go to her townhouse.
I was coming down the hill in front of her apartment, and I saw her car in between. I was like, oh, her car's here. She should be at work. Her car was still there.
John entered the townhouse, and his anxiety grew.
All I really remember is being panicked. As I'm calling her name, everything just starts to, freak me out. And all I'm thinking about is, what do I need to do? She's gone. She's not at her house. She's not anywhere.
Police still wanted to further verify John's timeline, but his account seemed solid. And he and Caitlin's other friends pointed the investigation in another direction. They believe the huge festival across the street from Caitlin's home played a role in her disappearance.
They wanted to direct my attention towards the people that were working at the carnival.
The idea seemed to make sense.
That festival is a huge draw. They pack that place. And most of the time, the carnival workers are from out of town, especially the ride workers. They are very transient type people.
Did you think it was possible that someone who either worked at the festival or attended the festival could have had something to do with Caitlin's disappearance?
I wasn't willing to rule out anything.
Law enforcement was still looking for a lead that might explain the disappearance of Caitlin Markham. They were confident something had happened to her during the half hour before her cell phone suddenly went dark at 12:06 a.m. Did they investigate any possible criminal activity in the area?
Yes, the Sacred Heart Festival was occurring down the street.
You know, there are some unsavory characters over at this fair. Maybe those people at the carnival were involved in her disappearance.
Detectives compiled a list of festival employees with criminal backgrounds. Each was eliminated using the narrow timeline of Caitlin's disappearance. The festival appeared to be a dead end.
Who else did they end up looking into?
There was acquaintance out of Caitlin's school who had been named as being creepy around Caitlin. He had had some criminal history in his past.
Could they establish where he was the night she went missing?
Fairfield Police Department established where he was at, and he had nothing to do with this.
"72 hours after Caitlin's disappearance, police still had no physical evidence that foul play was even involved.
There's nothing missing besides Caitlin and her cell phone. No blood, no acts of violence. It's like she's there one minute, gone the next.
Police reached out to the public for help, and the community answered their call.
Describe some of the searches that took place.
They searched the whole general area. It was an extensive search. It was unbelievable. People were coming out with their ATVs, and they're coming out with their dogs. They wanted answers, because disappearing for no reason, that doesn't happen in Fairfield.
The show of support comforted Caitlin's family during their darkest hours.
The community came together for Caitlin. It's very humbling. People that have never met Caitlin followed this case, poured their hearts out. It's a very surreal feeling.
But the massive searches uncovered nothing of value, and over time, the investigation slowly ground to a halt.
As the weeks turned into months, did you try to maintain hope?
Yes, but each day that went by, it just, it was less and less. I knew that this was not going to be a good outcome. This was not going to be what any of us wanted.
Meanwhile, police were still waiting for the evidence that would jumpstart the investigation. And more than a year after Caitlin's disappearance, they got it in the worst way possible.
Police finally got a break in the case. How did that come about?
A gentleman in Franklin, Indiana, searching a creek line for cans, come across a little area where some people had done some dumping.
The man saw a small bag, and he opened it.
He opens the bag, and there's a skull in it.
Terrified, the man dropped the bag and ran to notify police.
He calls 911, and the Indiana State Police and the local sheriff's office show up.
What did the Indiana State Police do when they arrived at the scene?
They could tell it was a female. So they got their phones out and started looking for people who had disappeared in the area. And the first photograph they pull up was Kayla Markham.
And a detail in the photos they saw inside of Caitlin's missing person file led first responders to suspect she was the victim they had found.
Caitlin had a pronounced tooth. And from that, they were pretty sure it was going to be Caitlin. They called Fairfield right away. "We think we found your missing person."
Dental records confirmed their hunch. It was a devastating blow for everyone who had been relentlessly searching for the young woman. The Caitlin Markham missing persons case had just become a homicide investigation.
I felt angry. She lived a low-risk lifestyle. She worked 2 jobs and went to school. And no one can tell me why she's dead.
There were 2 police officers and a pastor who came to the door and told me. I just broke down.
Seeing Caitlin's devastated loved ones motivated detectives to provide answers. They were desperate to know why Caitlin had been killed and by whom. But it quickly became clear that even getting the how would be challenging.
Was the medical examiner able to determine how she died?
No, the cause of death was unknown, but they did rule it a homicide.
Was there anything that they were able to learn from the autopsy?
They found cut marks on her left wrist. It looked like post-mortem. Someone had tried to cut off her hand. Some bones had been cut by something sharp.
Investigators hoped that the material her remains were wrapped in would provide them with a clue about the suspect.
Was there something distinctive about the way the body had been wrapped?
Her head had been wrapped in a plastic grocery bag, and her body had been wrapped in a plastic tarp.
And what was your theory about why the killer would have wrapped the body that way?
My theory was that someone knew who she was, and they didn't want to see Caitlin's face no more. That's just my theory.
Police had no physical evidence that linked Caitlin Markham to her killer. But they did discover an intriguing clue as they looked at a map between her home and where her body had been found.
Was there anything investigators could glean from that location?
Yes. They found out really quickly that the location of her body was in direct route to John Carter's father's farm.
That potential link sent investigators back to where they started, Caitlin's fiancé, John Carter.
Come on in, over here. I got you a chair right over there.
This time, the Indiana State Police handled the interview.
Are you familiar with the area where they found her?
My dad has property in Laurel. I've driven up there a handful of times.
Have you been over to where she was found?
No, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go to that place and be like, oh, this is where she died.
Although police remained skeptical, John's alibi was airtight. He had witnesses and computer logs that backed up his account. It seemed their new lead was just another dead end.
If you guys want to go through anything, if you need anything else, I'll give you whatever you need.
Following that interview, the investigation was at a standstill. The case was in danger of going cold when details of a strikingly similar attack popped up on detectives' radar.
A young lady had went missing. Her body had been located, and her head had been wrapped. Her body had been wrapped, and her body had been placed near a creek bed in Butler County.
And there was more that appeared to link the murder of Ellie White to Caitlin Markham's.
Did the victims resemble each other?
Yes, it was uncanny how they looked alike. They could have been twins.
In fact, the two crimes could have been mirror images of one another. But the White investigation had one major difference. This time, police had identified the man responsible.
And it was a gentleman by the name of Michael Strauss. And Mr. Strauss was found guilty of the killing of Ellie Week, and we were trying to connect the two homicides together.
And police quickly found links.
Strauss had a connection to Indiana. His grandmother lives an hour north of where Caitlin was found.
The investigation into Strauss shifted into high gear after an anonymous tip appeared to directly tie the convicted killer to Caitlin Markham.
There was a photograph of Michael Strauss and John Carter at this party. So now they're saying, okay, these two guys are connected somehow. Was it a possibility that Michael Strauss knew John and knew Caitlin? I asked the question, well, how about we go talk to Michael Strauss? And we interviewed him in the prosecutor's office.
In the interrogation room, investigator Newton explained to Strauss why he was being questioned.
I slid a news article over to him. I said, I want you to read that, please. And I said, now you see why you're here.
Then investigator Newton showed Strauss the photograph that connected him to Caitlin Markham.
And he says, I knew him from parties coming and going. I didn't know her. I never met her.
When Strauss denied any role in Caitlin's disappearance or murder, police asked him to take a polygraph exam.
The polygraph come back inconclusive. So I went to the Westchester Police Department and asked to look at the Michael Strauss case. What am I missing? What is someone else missing? So I did a search warrant on him. Let me do a deep dive into Michael Strauss.
That deep dive led police to pore over Strauss's online history, including Facebook pictures and messages. And shockingly, the time-consuming effort paid off.
I find a conversation that Michael Strauss is having about, hey, I had a great time last night at the party.
Investigator Newton was stunned. The party took place the night Caitlin Markham disappeared. And there was more.
We find a photograph of a gentleman with a lampshade on his head at this party. And right next to him, you see someone's face. It's Michael Strauss.
The picture taken of Strauss gave him a solid alibi during the time that Caitlin was killed.
Strauss was there that night, and there is no way he could have killed Caitlin.
Yes, he had nothing to do with this.
The original picture of Strauss and John Carter was nothing more than a coincidence.
Michael Strauss, he may be a serial killer, he may be, but I don't think he had anything to do with Caitlin.
Instead of feeling defeated, investigator Newton was more determined than ever. He decided to start the entire Markham investigation over from the beginning. And his unrelenting search for the truth would ultimately put Caitlin's killer directly in his crosshairs.
You need to understand something. I don't miss. If it is you, I'm coming.
It had been more than 6 years since Caitlin Markham had been murdered. But District Attorney Mike Mosier and his investigator Paul Newton believed that every clue had to be reviewed with a fresh eye.
Did you have any expectations of the case being solved when you committed to it?
I felt that we were the last stop. If we didn't solve this case, it was never going to get solved.
Everyone is a person of interest until I've ruled you out.
Investigator Newton believed that meant re-interviewing everyone, starting with those closest to Caitlin. And the passage of time had changed some of their views.
Did any of Caitlin's friends have new information for you?
We found out that the relationship between John and Caitlin wasn't quite as smooth as it was made out to be. John, he's kind of controlling. John's jealous. Caitlin was confiding in some of these people, I'm not sure we're going to be getting married. That's the first time we had heard that.
But perhaps the most important new details were found buried inside the massive case file. A report that had been taken just days after Caitlin's body was discovered.
Paul Newton said, hey, what's this about these boys in the bushes here that saw Carter come home that night at about 2 o'clock in the morning?
The tip had come from 2 teenagers who had snuck out of the house late on the night Caitlin disappeared. They said that while they were waiting for their ride, they heard a car approaching from the opposite direction.
They think it's going to be Fairfield Police Department, so they hide behind a big, huge evergreen.
But it wasn't a police car. It was John Carter returning home.
These boys saw Carter go into his garage. 10 minutes later, he comes out and drives away. And as he's leaving, he leaves with his lights off.
The information was stunning. In every one of his interviews, Carter had told police that he had arrived home at 1:30 in the morning and hadn't gone out again until 4:30 the next day. But police now had 2 witnesses who said they saw him leave his home after 2 a.m.
I said to Paul, those boys are not lying. That's the key in this case.
Those interviews punched a hole in John Carter's alibi. How did that alter your investigation?
That's the timeline of when she's being murdered. And at that point in time, it's game on.
Police went to work searching for additional cracks in Carter's alibi. Carter claimed after he got home, he spent the next few hours watching his favorite show on his computer.
One of my investigators reviewed that computer. And what does he find? He finds that 4:30 in the morning, Carter is looking for the synopsises of the program.
Police believe it was evidence that Carter had never actually viewed the episodes he downloaded.
He watched them. Why is he reading the synopsis?
So was it your belief that he never watched the show that night because he was disposing of Caitlin's body at that time?
Absolutely.
Prosecutors believe they had a strong circumstantial case. They presented their potential motive, the links to the crime scene, and the evidence of Carter's shattered alibi to a grand jury. When they were done, they confronted John Carter with its findings.
This is what we call the end game. And the grand jury has indicted you.
Why? For what?
Murder.
Okay, but what evidence? There's nothing.
This is where you need to come clean with what everything happened that night.
I don't know what happened. I have no idea what happened. I'm gonna need to get my lawyer.
Yes. Okay.
John Carter was arrested for Caitlin Markham's murder on March 22nd, 2023. Many wondered if the evidence police had collected would be enough to get a conviction.
At that point, did you have anything beyond circumstantial evidence?
No. I knew we'd find something. If you dig hard enough, you will find it.
With Carter behind bars, police continued to build their case.
Prior to trial, we go back to interview individuals who live next door to Caitlin.
And one of them had a disturbing story to tell.
They recall that date very well because it was their anniversary, and she dozes off around 10 o'clock at night.
Sometime after 11 p.m., a loud noise woke her up.
She hears a loud thump. And she hears yelling from a female, "Stop it, stop it." And she hears another thump.
Wasn't she concerned when she heard that?
She was. When I interviewed her, she breaks down.
Then the young woman explained why she had held on to this terrible secret for so long.
I said, "Why didn't you report this?" She goes, "I didn't want to think that I heard someone being murdered, especially Caitlin."
Police believed it was the final piece of the puzzle.
That was a revelation of like, okay, now we've got him. Now we've got him.
District Attorney Mike Mosier wasn't as certain. He still had to prove to the jury that John Carter was the only one with the motive and the opportunity to murder Caitlin.
Caitlin was getting cold feet. She wanted out, and she ended up dead. I think it was probably as simple as that.
prosecutors wanted to present evidence that after killing Caitlin, Carter methodically planned his alibi. He visited a friend's house, destroyed her phone, went home to turn on his computer, and then made the 30-mile drive to Indiana to get rid of Caitlin's body. But no matter how convincing that story was, there were still huge hurdles to clear.
There was no DNA evidence. There's nothing directly pointing to John, and John knew that.
The defense always claims that circumstantial evidence is nothing more than a coincidence. But when all of the circumstances can be put together, it can become a very powerful indictment with respect to guilt.
John Carter and his attorney were clearly worried about who the jury would believe. Just before the trial, they asked the district attorney for a meeting.
Carter's attorney approached you with a deal. How did you weigh his offer?
I wanted acceptance of responsibility and accountability. One way or another, John Carter needed to admit that he killed this girl, that the end of the relationship caused his anger and bad things happened. He was responsible. It needed to have closure in that way.
District Attorney Mosier got his confession. John Carter admitted he killed Caitlin. But the price was shocking. Carter would plead guilty to the charge of involuntary manslaughter and face a prison sentence of just 3 years.
While the general public might say, well, only 3 years, how can that be justice? Well, justice has to be decided on issues of what the truth is. And we didn't have the truth until he agreed to take the deal. Then we had the truth.
For Dave Markham, the outcome brought a wave of mixed emotions.
When Mike Mosier approached you with the possibility of a plea deal, were you on board?
I was on board. I wasn't happy with it, but I did not want a hung jury or a mistrial. He could have walked and gotten absolutely nothing. So I'm happy that he's in prison right now.
Investigator Paul Newton was deeply disappointed the case wasn't going to trial.
What was your reaction to John Carter pleading guilty to involuntary manslaughter?
No, I didn't like it at all. But we could have tried this case. We could have found him guilty. And John would have went the rest of his life saying, I didn't kill Caitlin. With this involuntary manslaughter charge, John has to walk into a Butler County courtroom in front of God and everybody and say, I killed Caitlin.
Paul Newton's tireless pursuit of Caitlin's killer has forged an unbreakable bond between him and Dave Markham.
How much gratitude do you have for the team that finally solved this case?
Very grateful. Paul Newton, he was a godsend. You know, without Paul, we wouldn't be sitting here today. He put his heart and soul into solving this.
Caitlin had an amazing future, and she had a lot of passion about the direction she was moving in. What do you think John Carter robbed her of?
Life, happiness, joy. And John Carter didn't just rob Caitlin. He robbed me of the joy of seeing Caitlin do great things with her art. He took away a lot from a lot of people. Caitlin would have touched so many lives.
But, that's it. Love you.